rugby is perceived to be a dangerous sport because of its physical approach. And indeed, a number of players have suffered career-threatening injuries. And to some extent, some players have died in action. It's against this background that we delve into the question of safety for the players involved in the sport.
Twaha Kyomuhendo will not be able to play his favorite sport until next season, following advice from doctors. This is to allow the crack in his skull to properly heal. Kyomuhendo suffered the injury during a league game clash against Pirates. His counterpart, Jude Rwakayanga, suffered a head injury during a league game clash against Ginger Hippos. He needed emergency surgery to remove a blood clot that had formed in his head.
Jude Rwakayanga's injury was very unfortunate. It was purely an accident. My injury was minor, but at first it was an emergency incident because it was a head injury. I had a facial fracture on my left eye, left upper part of the skull. Yeah, and the CT scan showed that it was a crack, but there was no brain injury.
As right now, the injured player is out of danger. Actually, we managed to pay a visit on Sunday, and is all in high spirits. But before that, we were really in a state where we were unable to sustain whether the player would be fine.
Dr. Stephen Buyungo is the head of the Uganda Rugby Union Medical Society. We sought his opinion on rugby players' safety.
Fortunately, rugby has put up systems for us to make the player safe, from ensuring that before a game goes on, there is the right equipment to manage the players. Equipment in the sense that there's a medical room and there's a checklist of the minimum requirements for that medical room. Or sometimes we improvise and we create a medical tent, but there must be somewhere a player is going to be managed in the event that they are injured. We have an ambulance. Sometimes it's required to have a minimum of 2, but for the local games, usually 1 is enough. And that ambulance must have the minimum. We have a checklist that we go through, and we agree as World Rugby and as the Rugby Medical Society that this is what we shall need for a game to go on. Anything short than that, the medical team calls the match commissioner and the refs, and a decision is made.
Uganda Rugby Union says the issue of player safety is paramount on their agenda, and the next target is to get players insured across the league.
I think the next step for us is now to find channels to have our players, insured or ready to be treated. We have explored the opportunity to get insurance for players in the league, but it's not been fruitful so far.
For example, a basic insurance policy in Uganda will cost about 1.2 million per year. And if you compound that to, say, 50 players for each club, that's a lot of money.
Appropriate medical personnel on hand the day Jude Rwakayanga got injured went a long way in saving his situation.
Of late, the standards have improved. He was able to be evacuated immediately. He was given pitch-side assistance, and that action to actually evacuate him and get him to a hospital, I think played a big part in being able to diagnose the injury as early as possible, and the measure was given that he must have immediate surgery. The medical side must be really taken care of. For a game to start, ambulance must be in place, and not just a basic ambulance, but with all the equipment needed to treat a player in case of a serious injury of that nature.
We need to have doctors that are not contracted to the clubs, that is from the union, to be able to actually attend all matches and be able to assess injuries as per player.
Dr. Buyungo takes us through some of the injuries and the necessary interventions in case they happen.
Rugby is a contact sport, and we expect a wide range of injuries. Fortunately, majority of the time we get simple musculoskeletal injuries to lower limbs, upper limbs, the torso. The career-ending injuries are usually those involving the head and definitely the spine. So the spine, the neck being the most vulnerable, usually the back and the thoracic and the lumbar are quite protected a little bit. So the neck is the most mobile and so the most vulnerable. I've seen less than 5 where you really need to hospitalize a player following a head injury.
The World Rugby Union is implementing trial laws in France, England and New Zealand regarding tackling. In Uganda, the same laws are being tried at community level. It is hoped that when the trials are successfully implemented, the perception towards rugby will change. Felix Manyindo, NTV Sport.